días.
Good afternoon. There's a sentence by Ringo Bonavena, a boxer, who said that when the ball rings, even no one is there. So here am I alone as well. I'm going to talk about GeneXus on the short and long term. That's usually the name, but today I will name it differently. And in order to explain that, let me tell you something that I like. I like warplanes, especially aircraft that used to fight in wars. And there's a curious story, and by this I mean planes that fight onto one each other, the dogfights. And there's a statistic that we've seen, which is that 95% of the planes that come down are done by some of those pilots. That is to say, some pilots that are good enough and do most of those planes that fall down. So people try to research what characteristics that 5%, that elite, had. So they started searching for physical characteristics. They had a better sight, more reflexes, they were less risk averted, and this is called the ACE factor. I found this in a book called the ACE factor, and these pilots were not better than the others. They didn't have the best eyesight, they were not blonde, etc. What they did have were three features different from the other pilots. First of them might seem obvious, but it was that they had survived the first 5 combats. Maybe that might sound obvious, but when analyzed better, this means that actually experienced pilots were trying to knock the new ones, the rookies. So most of the mistakes that you make them in the first 5 combats. This changed a lot of policies because after a while pilots didn't fight anymore, so that they didn't have so much stress. But what happened then was that the pilots that were fighting were the newest ones, so they made more mistakes. Second feature, they were obsessive. These guys spent all day the maneuvers they had done, what new tricks they could try, and they were always thinking how to fight better. And the third one, which is the relevant one for today, they had a characteristic that started to have a name from that book on, and it was called situational awareness, which means that they were extraordinarily good at knowing what was happening during the air combat. Air combat is very complex. Sometimes 3 planes fight against 5 planes in 3 dimensions at 1,000 kilometers per hour. It's a very complex situation where everyone is trying to knock down the other one. No one collaborates. So these elite pilots were good at knowing what was going on. It was very important that when a situation is very confusing, it is very important to know what's going on. So that's a name of my presentation today, what's going on. I believe we are in that situation. Everything is so complex and so confusing that it's very important to know what's going on. In that sense, I will talk about the industry, what's going on with GeneXus and the community, but especially I will now focus on the industry, that is to say the most interesting thing that are happening. But within the industry, the most important things are not in the software industry per se. The most important thing is going on in the hardware industry. After many years without major innovations, at a certain point a great number of innovations appeared, at least 2. First, intelligent phones, smartphones, and then tablets. What's going on right now in the tablet world is impacting the others, the rest. If we take a closer look at this world of tablets, the absolute winner is the iPad. It is already into its 2nd generation. But if we take a look at the sales of tablets in the 2nd quarter of this year, what we have is that iPad sold almost 10 million tablets. Android were sold quite good, 4.6 million. I have the feeling that that number is not a true one, in the sense that what was sold from iPad is that figure because they couldn't manufacture it anymore. If they were able to manufacture more, they would have been able to sell more. I think Apple will sell more and will continue to do so. But what happened here? The success of the iPad is a sort of expansive wave that complicated everyone else. Let's see, in Android, I thought that last year when I talked about tablets for the first time, I thought that Android would have a competitive tablet very quickly, and it didn't happen that way. The first time I took an Android tablet, which was quite good and competitive with iPad, was only 2 or 3 months ago at a Google event where someone gave me the Samsung Galaxy Tab, and it was the first time I felt it was quite competitive. But it hasn't been as successful yet as was expected from Android tablets. BlackBerry, even though Android did quite well, in the case of BlackBerry, we can say that this is not the case. It did have problems with tablets. It launched the Playbook and it had some inconvenience for selling it. I think this has been a problem and it will have a hard time positioning it again. Much more complicated was what happened with Hewlett-Packard. It invested more than $2 billion. It bought Pan, and it tried to compete with a new OS. Then it launched the tablet, and it did so bad that it decided to take it off the market. HP had even greater impacts. And then we have Microsoft, which still doesn't offer a competitive tablet right now. I will talk about Microsoft's strategy. It announced it a couple of days ago. But the reality now is that the great winner is iPad with a good competitor, which is Android. But that's the tablet world. The interesting thing is that the success of tablets moved towards adjacent markets, specifically the famous PC market. Before that, let me tell you something. Let's see how crazy the tablet market is. This is an article from an analyst that covers the tablet market, and he says, let me tell you which are the 10 most important tablets. I brought the list of the 5 most important. Number 5 is Nuke from Barnes & Noble. It's a sort of e-book that Barnes & Noble has. Number 4 is Asus. Mariano will like it because it has a keyboard. It's both a tablet with a keyboard. Number 3 is the one I mentioned, which is quite a competitive Android, the Galaxy Tab. And obviously, number 1 is iPad 2. The thing here is, which is the second one? Which one do you think is the second one? The Amazon tablet. The problem of the Amazon tablet is that it doesn't exist. There is no such thing. There's a rumor that Amazon will launch a tablet. So this analyst was analyzing the 10 most competitive tablets that you can buy today. He adds one that doesn't even exist. So this is an indication as to what is going on, the degree of how confusing things are today. As I told you, the tablet sales affected PC sales. In the first half of 2010, sales had grown by 24%. In the same semester this year, they had growth of 1%. So there is a great change there. In the US, the situation is even worse. It had a growth of 15% and it started decreasing around 5%. You could say that this is a temporary thing or this is because of the crisis in the US. However, some players have already made decisions. For example, Hewlett-Packard decided to sell its PC market. So it decided, I'm going to leave this area. I have an article included there where it says HP to Apple, you win. There are very few times do we see a situation where someone says, you win. So the effect of tablets is real. This is what the CEO of HP has said, so they're no longer competitive in that area. What happens with smartphones? Here the thing is somewhat different, but the first question is, how are we doing in terms of adoption? How many smartphones do people have when they have cell phones? These are figures from the US. I think that the US is not the most advanced place, but here it says out of 100%, 42% of the people who have cell phones, 42% have smartphones. US is a weird country because 17% of adults don't have a cell phone. I think that in Uruguay there's a much higher number of people who own a cell phone. So almost half of the people who have a cell phone have a smartphone in the US. So maybe they listened to my last presentation. What's going on with the market? Well, in the market, we have Android. These are sales from the second semester of this year. Android is selling quite well. Symbian is still there, but it is decreasing. Then you have BlackBerry with a constant percentage, and then iOS with a 20% there. But the major star there is Android. And then we'll see the impact of that. If you want to see some numbers from Uruguay, what Victor said about the mobile sector of Montevideo, m.montevideo.com.tweet, in terms of access, 30% accounts for iOS, 26% to Android, and then the rest. And if you want to know the data about this room, Victor was telling me that in terms of last year, we did very well because we have 800 devices connected to the Wi-Fi network, which is something that we hadn't had in previous years. So the number of people that now has smartphones in this room has greatly increased from last year to this year. Actually, the bandwidth that we are consuming did as well. Last year we had 10 megas, and this year we have 20 megabytes, and we were sort of crowded at certain times. So we're doing what we expected we would be doing in terms of smartphones. Those are the data. Those were the things, the facts, the things I wanted to show you about PC worlds, smartphones, and tablets. But what has happened to the big players in this confusing and complex situation? It's very interesting. I believe that everything that's going on, if I had to cover this industry, maybe Jorge Rial or Viviana Canosa, two gossip journalists, they would be totally comfortable because everything that's going on in the hardware industry is similar to what is happening in the jet set in Argentina. All they have to find is a videotape in a cell phone that's in an awkward situation. And continuing with boxing, this reminded me of a Mike Tyson sentence, and he said this: everyone has a plan until they get the hit, the first hit. And this is exactly what's going on. Everyone had a plan until things began to get complicated. And maybe you can ask, which are the complications? Well, this is the complication. Do you know what this is? This is a chart that shows the suits that one company is pursuing against another one. Those are arrows over there. Don't try to understand this. This is from November 2010. It would have been a total circle, but these are all the lawsuits that Nokia filed against another, Microsoft, etc. The interesting here is that you will find some known names, Motorola, Google, Apple, all those names are there, but you will also find names that you don't know. There's one there that's called Acacia Research. Then there's another that's Smart Technologies, which is quite active. This is what Elias was mentioning the other day. These are law firms that buy patents in order to file suits against other people who have patents. So there's a sort of second order state in terms of lawsuits. And this is so, when I was talking with Mike Culver from Amazon the other day, the first thing I asked him was, did you bring your Amazon tablet with you? Because everyone's talking about it, so I wanted to see it. He said, of course not. I have never seen it. This is what he said. I didn't believe him. But the issue is that he left and he didn't show it to me. But he said something interesting. We are now getting ready because probably when we announce it, Apple will sue us. And if they don't sue us, this means that we didn't do a good product. So this is what the world has become. In Peso Book, in the presentation, that I said that this is a world for graphic designers, but lawyers do have a place in this industry too. What is each doing? Let's see Apple. If there's something that's going on right now is mythical Steve Jobs has resigned. I just want to remember him as the great CEO of Apple, and this sentence sums him up. If Steve Jobs did something was to carry out a vision of the simplicity of products. He's been strong and has fought for that, and I really wish him well at this time. But as I said, this was a player that complicated things. He brought iPhones, started tablets, etc. You might be saying, well, they're having a great time, but actually no, they're not, because among the things that happened, Android is competing in the smartphone market in a much stronger way than expected, so it started reacting. One of the things it started to do was to sell unlocked iPhones. Before, if you wanted to buy an iPhone, you had to really push, because unless you had a contract, if you wanted it for something that was without a contract, then you couldn't do it. And now you can buy unlocked phones, a clear sign that this is feeling Android's pressure. But another thing it did was it started filing suits in every direction, and one of them is the Samsung Galaxy Tab that I mentioned today. They filed a suit against them saying that the tablet was a copy of iPad and that it cannot be sold. Actually, there's a lawsuit being filed in Europe, and I think that the jury found that this was in favor of Apple, and the Galaxy Tab cannot be sold in Europe. When just imagine what happened in the situation. Apple's lawyer said they copied our tablet. Actually, they were quite similar, to be honest. And the lawyer said, well, they copied our tablet, and Samsung's lawyers had to defend themselves. So when they tried to do this, they presented this. This is true. They submitted this picture. Do you know what this picture is? They said, I didn't copy Apple's tablet. I copied it from this picture. If you take a look, a closer look to the picture, 2001 Space Odyssey. So there's a scene from 2001 Space Odyssey where astronauts are having breakfast with super modern food, and Arthur C. Clarke or Stanley Kubrick came with the idea of having an iPad. And this is where what the lawyers of Samsung used as an argument. I would say that they really lost the battle, and then now they cannot sell the tablet in Europe. What's going on with Google? It's another major competitor, a very interesting competitor. The first thing is that it's also undergoing a transition. The CEO left its place, and one of the founders took the CEO's place. So we'll see what happens there. Anyway, in the light of Juan Grompone's presentation, this is a company that has a way of working which is quite interesting. If you look at it from outside, its corporate strategy would be like throwing Play-Doh against the wall and see what happens. Part of it falls and part of it remains there. And if the Play-Doh remains there, and these are the sort of Play-Dohs that remained, Google, Gmail, Android, and Chrome, they were all big successes. And they also have 10 products that they just closed. So they're constantly generating new products, new failures, and every now and then they have a major hit. So this is really a management modality that's quite new. I recommend you to take a look at Juan Grampone's look, which will give you a context as to why they are doing this. But actually, in practice, what's going on is this. They have a lot of failures, but they have major successes as well. Anyway, it's feeling the pressure too. And the other day it came up with this. It said, Google buys Motorola Mobility for $12 billion. Motorola Mobile. Why did it need to do this? Everyone has been wondered and is still wondering why this happened. And the most rational explanation is the one I read from Jose. Jose, are you there? Yes, I can see you. Where you said in your article, which was a good one, actually what they were buying were patents. They were not interested in the capacity for building hardware, but they had a huge number of patents, so it was good for them to buy those patents. It's probably the case because in the other day, they transferred some patents to HTC so that they could sue Apple. So once again, we're in this lawsuit circle again. How's BlackBerry doing? I believe it's doing okay. In the phone market, it's defending its position, but it's not doing well in the tablet market, and they will have a hard time positioning in that area. The other player is Microsoft here. Let me begin talking about Windows 8 and Windows Phone. Today, Windows 8 is the most relevant thing. How will this next generation be like? Now, in the US, they have just announced a new version, and the most relevant thing about it is that it has a new user interface. Besides from the classic Windows version where we saw Windows, we will have a new user interface called Metro, which is totally different, and it looks like a phone. So it will be like a big phone. And what we need to assess is how eruptive it will be from a programming point of view. I dare say that this will be a major change because in order to make applications for that user interface, we will have to make a lot of changes, but I cannot say that right now. In any case, we will have a new version next year, in 1 year more or less, where we will have Windows 8, which will run in processors that will be working for tablets. So what we will have is the first competitive version of Microsoft tablets in 1 year running with Windows 8. What's happening with Windows Phone 7? That's a version where Microsoft wanted to compete in the case of smartphones. When it was launched, it didn't do well in terms of sales, so it really made a big effort in terms of an agreement with Nokia so that Nokia would have the Windows Phone OS systems and leave aside Symbian and the others. So from now on, the great speculation is when will we have a Nokia phone with Microsoft OS? We don't know when that will be ready, but we think that the first Microsoft and Nokia smartphones would be in the market in November. This is a huge thing. These are two huge competitors, and they're too big to fail, and so we assume that they will do very well, but they are in a very strong consolidated market where both iOS and Android are very huge, so it will be the fight of two giants. So we'll see what happens. Just as we had a player in 2007 who was Apple, and it was really disruptive, now out of the blue, Amazon appeared. It appeared out of the blue, and similar to Google's structure, one day they had so many servers that someone maybe said, why don't we sell server services? And they started with a cloud, and now they're the #1 player in the cloud. If you want to take a look at figures, they've just announced that Amazon already has 500 billion objects. I don't know what an object for Amazon is, but anyone would like to have 500 billion objects. it's quite an impressive number, and it's growing. And the other thing it has is in terms of tablets. Here, this was the article that increased the rumor. A journalist said, "It exists, I've seen it, I have even played with it, but I wasn't able to take a picture." So this increased speculation. This is like when journalist Real is selling the program for the other day. So you're curious about it. The first interesting thing of this is Android, the OS. It's not the same OS that Google has. It's doing interesting things. Instead of going to the Android store, it would have to go to the Amazon store. So it would be going its own way. The other thing is that... What was that? I thought that someone would bring the tablet to me. The other thing is that it could have a subsidized price. A price that's lower to its cost, because same as those who sell consoles can sell them cheaper because afterwards they will make money out of the games. In this case, they're tied to the Amazon store, so the tablet could have a lower price in the hope that people will spend more money in the Amazon store, etc. So the rumor is that it will be a tablet that would cost $250. I think that price, once again, makes it more disruptive. So if we see it this way, I believe that there are a lot of uncertainties here. No one knows what will happen, and many things might happen. Anyway, I think that there are some certainties. There are some things that we can say, well, at least on the short term, we could say that this is what's going to happen. First of all, we have the cloud. This is a chart that Victor gave me. This is information that the amount of information that people generate, not companies, people. There are almost 3 million emails by second, 50 tweets per day, etc., etc. This is the information that we generate on a daily basis, a huge amount of information, which necessarily goes to the cloud. What I believe will happen on the cloud is that it will be a tremendous success, no matter what the provider or its definition. But I believe that it's meant to be invisible. I think that it's like electrical engines. I am sure that at home I have a number of electrical engines, but the thing is that I have no idea where they are. They're invisible for me. I have one on my fridge, a microwave in the garage door, etc. I have tons of them, but they're invisible. And this doesn't mean that I will give a presentation on the next electrical engine. No, I think that with time, this is what happened with the cloud. It's something that will be invisible, and we will just be using it. In terms of native applications, they're a huge success. If you take a look at the numbers of this market, the Android market, Apple Store and BlackBerry, this is constantly growing in terms of applications being approved. They grow, and the line of business apps also constantly and consistently grow. Fabian was telling me the other day that in the strong time of the App Store, which is December, it has to approve 900 applications per day. So there's a huge number of native apps that's growing there. This does not mean that HTML web applications will not exist. No. On the contrary, I believe that we will have more and more web applications, and the reason for this is that, as I was telling you last year, we don't have a standards war anymore, how to make faster and nicer web applications. Obviously, HTML won this. This was a joke, but it really shows what happened. We went from a standard that was a sort of patchy thing to a quite well-organized thing that annulled all the other competitors that wanted to compete in bridge language for web applications. So from now on, and from the adoption of the HTML5 standard, we will have a strong explosion of all of these. And the only thing that's hindering that is the existence of some browsers that do not support HTML5. Specifically, the worst browser that's not supporting this is the Internet Explorer 6. That's a problem for everyone. Such a big problem is it that even Microsoft made this site called Internet Explorer 6 Countdown. What it means is it counts the percentage of market for Internet Explorer 6. And if you take a look at this, it explains it as an environmental cause. They say join the cause, educate other people, tell your friends. So what they mean by this is that we all have to collaborate with the extinction of Internet Explorer 6. It's good for everyone. This is a Microsoft official site. This is good for Microsoft and this is good for everyone. If Internet Explorer 6 disappears, then we will have faster and better applications in the web. The other thing is that smart devices won't kill PCs. As you were saying the other day in the round table, television didn't kill the radio didn't kill the movies, the cars didn't kill trains. But it's always fun to analyze the news, it's always fun to say that there's a new technology and that it will kill previous technologies. I don't think that will be the case, but it redefines them. I don't listen to the radio as we used to do in the 50s. Television didn't kill the radio, but it did kill radio theater. So some things changed their use. If you take a look at my backpack, I usually have my notebook, an iPad, and a Kindle. And I also have a smartphone. So I have everything. And I intend to buy a notebook. Actually, I'm about to buy a new notebook. So it doesn't mean that it replaced the other things. But if you take a look at me, I do use less the notebook than I did a couple of years ago. For some periods, I no longer use the notebook and I use the tablet. Actually, for the first time in my professional life, I made 2 trips without one notebook. I had never done that, and I did that for the first time. But this doesn't mean that I do not intend to buy a new notebook. So it won't eliminate it, but it will redefine them. And all of this, just to close this part, I wanted, in such a moment of uncertainty, I think we need to learn to see reality. Alice says that we can always see reality through 3 lenses: the lens of what I want, the lens of what I need to do, and the lens of what it is. And right now, I think we need to really focus on the lens of what it is, not what we want, because when we see these news, if I only know how to program in a certain platform, since I want that platform not to die, then I will only see the good news and ignore the bad ones. I will try to deform reality so that it becomes what I want. The great recommendation is that we need to see reality today as it is and not as I want. And for that, I have a story made by Ricardo Visori, not the one he told me this morning. He will do that. He will tell you about it during the cocktail. This is a real story about Ringo Bonavena, who was a boxer, a great boxer from Argentina, who, besides from being a great boxer, he really had a sort of PhD in everyday knowledge. So one day, this guy had to compete against Muhammad Ali in his most glorious time, and Bonavena had to fight against him. It was a very tough fight. And in the first round, this was on Ali's favor. He was winning, so that you have an idea. Before Ali converted to Islamism, he was Cassius Clay, and Bonavena said Clay, Clay, in order to make him mad. But the issue is that the first round was quite bad for Bonavena, and his trainer, when he came to the ringside, told Ringo, come on, Ringo, he didn't even touch you. And in the second round, once again, he comes back quite bruised and with a lot of hits, and then his trainer says, come on, Ringo, he didn't touch you. And after 4 or 5 rounds, Bonavena had his eyes swollen, and he sits there, and he says, come on, Ringo, he didn't even touch you. And Bonavena turned around and said, Amilcar, do one thing. Just stay alert, because if it is not Ali, someone is punching on my face. So it's important to see reality as Bonavena saw it, what it is, not what his trainer wanted to be. Now let's see what's happening with GeneXus. The most important thing we're doing with GeneXus is Evolution 2. We had 2 projects last year, GeneXus Evolution 2 and SDX. In terms of XDX, we suspended it for some time so that we can release Evolution 2 as fast as possible. It's a good idea and we will continue to have it. In terms of SDX, it aimed at having those clients that did not exist in terms of GeneXus, but we understood that it was much more relevant to have a version for smart devices as fast as possible because of the clients that we already have and not for prospects. Further on, we will get back to SDX. As Carriquidi mentioned at the beginning of the presentation of the event, the roadmap that we have is we have released Beta 4, and we will be working on the RC from here up to the end of the year, and then the final version. From the point of view of what we have, we are working on web applications and smart devices. In terms of web applications, we work with HTML5, where we have performance enhancements, usability enhancements, everything better in terms of cloud computing, and there's also GAM security. In terms of smart devices, well, we have released versions for these platforms, Apple, Android, and BlackBerry. What we will be doing now is to release them further on. We're in a position of wait and see in order to see what happens with Windows Phone 7, and then we will start working on that generator. We have worked on this, but we're now seeing what happens in the market with that. Anyway, I believe that what happens about these applications, it's not working. I believe that I need to be closer. What type of applications can we make? These are some of them. These were built with GeneXus. We are quickly increasing the number of applications that we can build, and the big question is what type of applications are they? I think we have 2 lines. The line of business applications, which I want to have within an RP, a small component for data entry or a dashboard in order to see how I'm doing in terms of sales. And then we have the end consumer applications, the ones that are directly targeted at the Apple Store and the end consumer and not corporate clients. These are 2 types of applications that are totally different, but I believe that one is strongly influencing the other one. So I believe that we will end up doing business applications that resemble more and more end-user applications. Same as I think that Facebook influence in the user interface of an RP, in the sense that I don't mean that the RP is going to label a picture, but they will have the same degree of interactivity that they have. This will also happen with line of business applications. Those of us who do this need to learn a lot and need to copy a lot from the people who do applications for end users. And for that, I wanted to invite my friend Ignacio Roqueta, who has been working in end consumer applications, so that he can tell me a little bit about the experience. Can you hear me? Just look at over there, there's no one.
Well, thank you very much for inviting me. I don't know, you really don't know how much I love you. Look at me, relax. This is intimidating. And really, it's not the first time I'm here. Once Once you forced me to come up, I was ridiculous. Yes, and once you did the same with a tennis match. What do you have now? I wanted to tell you that Nicolás is always insisting and pushing us to use GeneXus, to us developers, basically to feel what GeneXus users feel and see what we can improve in the tool and what problems it may have. And we're always struggling to see what kind of application we can do using GeneXus, which is not easy for us. We can create a building system for our cousins, or Milano, who did a web application for the soccer team of his son, and I did the same for a video store. And now now we have a series of personal applications that we can do in our own devices, with our devices. We feel like having a hammer and everything around our nails. I brought up a couple only, but we have been doing applications for kitchen, for chefs, recipes, ingredients, and to see how that recipe is done. We also make a radio, so we have to do streaming of radios in order to listen, the radio programming, all programs, all shows. Milano made an application for the marriage of Sayonara. Yeah, that was a failure. It didn't work. No. Poor Saira. Well, she stands in somewhere now. I want to see that. What's that? This is an application we made with Willie some time ago. Basically, we asked, well, what type of application we can do. And we did one for a movie theater. We took the films from the web and we started showing the films, the times it was shown, and comments of the people. What worries me is that I see it nice. It looks nice. Did you do it yourself? You didn't do it with Marinés? No. I made it. I made it myself. It's as nice as Facebook, by the way. Anyway, you're in the first position. Yes, of course. I talked so much about it during this event. I was telling you that once we install it in your iPod, you like it, you show it to everybody, to Bishar from Montevideo.com, and he said, well, I like, for the theater and movie site. We adapted it to their reality. We put it in a Apple store, and since we released it, on the third day, it was in the first position on the top 15. It was downloaded by about 2,000 people. The local radio one will defeat you. Stop with the tweet. I should have deactivated the tweet. I have an interesting thing about this application. 250 people in Saudi Arabia downloaded this. Perhaps this means something in Arabic. And another story of this application, we were showing it to some participants in development, and Panisa arrives walking with his Walkman, and he said, looks, it's It's good. Well, we should do applications like this one with GeneXus. That was the day we had to break the door because he couldn't go through. It's a very simple application. It's a list with containing information about movies, the title, the picture, the rating, information on the film. When you select it, there is further information, the duration of the film, the times, it's shown, what movies, the views of the users. Each user gives an opinion and a value to the film, and you can see the trailer of the movie. It's a very simple application. We actually focus on making it nice and friendly for the user. How long did it take? I think it took about a couple of weeks, not more than that. The same information, but for theaters. Actually, I was impressed by the number of theater plays that are present in Montevideo. And here we have the information of the theaters, movies and theater. We select the theater. We can see where it is in the map. And you can see the times for exhibition. But basically that's the information. Thank you very much, Roqueta. I said I had a couple of applications. I have a surprise for you. And I had to show you something. You didn't want to come up here, and now you see, as that philosopher said, as I tell you something now, I'll tell you a different thing. As we did good with iPhone, in iPhone with this application. No, only 100 people downloaded it. I think this is basically an application for Uruguay. And perhaps people having Android is not aware and they don't download it. Well, if somebody here has Android, remember to download this application. I'm going to show you the surprise. You're going to like it. We made a mobile application for the #1 fan site. Look at the time. Bergan authorized me to do so. They call it the site of the fan of the National Soccer Club. And the name is decano.com. In this application, the colors are not very good there. Really? We are in the format of a simple application that basically shows news. We gave it a special format because it has a page of view. Do you have many news to show? Look at this, how nice. 1903. Where you can enter into the news. Here you have the development of the news. This will be in the first position in the Apple Store. This application will... You uploaded it? Yes, I did. People can vote for you not to upload it. When I made this. I contacted the people with the Cano.com. They were really excited about it. Here we show the same information, news. This is the real strength of this page. That is the community. You're not going to read the comments. No. These comments always have a high level, of course. This has a terrific movement. Okay, it scrolls, okay. But it's not read only. You can add comments as well. I had a here we are in the discussion with Nicolás Jodal in the GeneXus event, and Nicolás is very happy. So we are going to post it. Yes, of course, this is in the forum. You will be included in the national page.
And this is the so-called Decano TV part. So you did this. Okay, this is okay. Did you do this right? What do you mean by this? Did you do it? Was it good enough? Can it be used for another soccer team? Well, you will need to get the information. So, and you need your team to be able to ride in such a high level as this one. Basically, here we have a video showing the magnificent glory of the Nacional Soccer Club. This is just an overview, because if we're going to show everything, it will take a long time. Yes, you started with 1903. Okay, hurry up. Okay, go on. Let's take advantage of the opportunity. Roqueta, we have people waiting here. Remember, we have kids here. This video shows how most Nacional soccer fans think. And this is the video. Will it take a long time? That's a Peñarol t-shirt. And the white one is a Nacional t-shirt. Let's wish that what joins us will triumph over what separates us. Thank you, Roqueta. Merry Christmas. Even though this is not related to the occasion, we always have to remember that we're talking about sports and these are for entertainment. We need to take things in a more calm way and we don't need to fight with each other. Okay. Last thing for Nacional soccer fans, this will be available in the App Store very soon. Let's make it the #1 app. And for Peñarol soccer fans, you will be probably receiving some phone call. Daniel Mendez will come and he will show the application for Peñarol soccer fans. Well, to conclude, I would like to ask you a question. Should I go to work tomorrow? Yes. Thank you very much. My pleasure. You didn't want to come up and now you didn't want to leave the podium. Well, this in terms of business applications. Let's see what we've done in terms of other GeneXus products. In the server, we're launching a new version with Evolution 2. We are mainly working in continuous integration and object logs. We're working in GX tests, trying to automate more and more the testing of applications so that the process we can test games as quick as possible without too much human intervention. We want the tool to be easily used without so much initial effort. In terms of flow, we are working in terms of mobile. We want to have a version of mobile flow. We believe that one of the major important of business applications is flow, and in mobile it would also be important. That's why we're working on that. And in query, we have worked mainly in tablets. First of all, we need to be able to see dashboards in tablets. We used to have flash things so we couldn't see them. We're working on that. In the mobile version, we already have graphic components, etc., etc., and we will have new versions of all of this. This is what I wanted to tell you in terms of GeneXus. What about the community? First thing I wanted to tell you is that Pablo Brena launched a challenge in terms of how many green actions we were capable of doing, and he said that in terms of garbage sorting, we sorted like 30 kilos of plastic and 18 kilos of cardboard. I don't have any idea what this means, but since they were so happy, I guess it's a good number. So congratulations. In terms of partners, this is always important. The community has specialized, so we have technological partners. In that sense, we are happy with your work. The people from Develop are working with us in the BlackBerry generator and also in the work with Plus pattern. We had a mobile version. There was one that was used in the event, so I recommend you to see how it works. It has had good reviews. People from DV Factor together with GeneXus USA have experience in XPM for projects, but even more important for the community is the conversion that they have G2W product, where they have made quite large conversions of KBs of even 25,000 objects, migrating them from Windows to web. In the case of K2B tools, they were working with business patterns, auditing, etc. And they have been working in an area that will be more and more important in the future, which are semantic patterns. They have worked a lot in that area. The people from .exe are releasing patterns these days, and they're working with Evolution 2 as well. And the people from Abstracta are working with GX tests. So we're really proud to have all these partners who are helping us in specific tasks, both migrations, patterns, etc., etc. In terms of community numbers, we have some 84,000 members, 45,000 of them in use, 33 fora, almost 200,000 messages. Besides from the virtual part, it's still relevant for us to have personal contact with you. That's why we think that these events are so important. In the wiki, we have 2,000 articles with thousands of reviews. In the marketplace, we launched this last year, and we managed to join the people who are producing user controls with the people who need them. We're really happy about the numbers here. Some of the numbers tell us that there are 3,700 people who downloaded controls or extensions of the marketplace. We have 60 developers, 160 products, and there's constant feedback and reviews of the products. So we're quite happy about that. Then we have the challenges. As you've seen, we already awarded all the different prizes that we had, so that people that university students that don't have GeneXus can run a smart device version. The other challenge was meant for the community, for people who have GeneXus. And then we had the ideas challenge, which was an idea that Brogan had, which was our aim was to call people, not people who know nothing about it. I mean, people who have. Then you will say that Brogan said that people don't know anything about anything. No, I mean that don't know so much about GeneXus. We had more than 250 apps. Arthur is an application for universities that resulted from the University Challenge, and it joins technologies. If you take a picture, for example, it will tell you what type of monument it is and gives you information. It gives you an idea as to how to mix different technologies. The other thing that we have is GeneXus, quite a typical end consumer application that solves a problem. If I'm here and if I want to go somewhere else, I need to take a bus, I have no idea what bus I can take. It's a real problem, a real life problem. So it's a very good application. I really liked it. If you haven't seen it, then I will show it to you in a closer look because of the colors, Peñarol colors. Can you see it from there, Roqueta? Roqueta, now you don't have a microphone, so you cannot talk. And then we have the Loco Abreu application. I don't need to introduce him to you. It's just been approved in Astor, so it will be huge. But what I wanted to point out is quite a weird thing about this. Not the application per se, but the two friends who made this application then decided to set up a company to do these type of applications. The company is called smartgold.com, and they will make these type of applications. I believe that phenomenon will be more and more frequent. We will have people who have ideas, and based on those ideas, they end up making some sort of business deal. This is something that we're really interested in, and we've been researching on this. Our tech itself has always had those criteria in the sense that people are encouraged to create companies. One day we generated GeneXus Consulting, then GeneXus Vision. This is how it happened. So I believe that the smart device world will be a new beginning for these type of things. We are researching this in terms of how we can help the community in this process of startups, creation, or spin-offs. So we're doing a project with IDB and the Chamber of Exporters of Uruguay. We're testing this within our tech, and we hope this can be extended to the whole community in order to support the creation of these type of companies. And to conclude, I wanted to thank all the beta testers of Evolution 2. For us, as I said this morning, this was a totally different beta process where we started from an idea of what we wanted to do, and we ended up doing something else. So the feedback of the community, the feedback as to what each of the developers was doing, guided us, and we ended up doing the type of applications that people wanted to build. So this is the first time that we built a GeneXus version in such a collaborative way. We're really proud of this. This was very good for all of us. And if there's something, if there's a conclusion from all those mails that I received from people asking for things, more or less all the emails said the same. It's easy, do it. Thank you very much.